Okay, I can't. Oh, we're good now. Okay, thank you. Click on the calendar.
Yeah. I looked at this morning, I wondered about it.
Is everybody good? We good? Just want to make sure. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You're online? Okay. Thank you all for your patience. It is now 7:22. I'm going to request a call to order to establish a quorum. Shay, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. We have Dr. Von Elliott via Zoom.
Present.
Okay. We have Ms. Mary Oswald at Official via Zoom.
Present.
Ms. Jackson,
Present.
Dr. Coleman,
Present.
Ms. Mario,
Present.
Mr. Hartley,
Present.
Ms. Tisworth, Ms. Lane,
Yeah. Will now request approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull an item, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 10B under discussion, a mirror renewal.
So noted that item 10B will be pulled. May I have a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of item 10B?
so moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I hear all
Excuse
ayes.
me. Oh, aye. Excuse me, Madam Chair, so that the recording picks up everybody's voice, I would ask that you move your mics down closer and that you speak into the mic, please. Thank you.
So we'll record that all in favor one more time.
Aye.
Okay, all right. The third item on the agenda has to do with election of new officers. At this time, in accordance with policy BCC1, appointed board officials, it says the board shall elect a secretary and treasurer on or before July 15th of each year. The board may also elect an alternative secretary and treasurer to serve in situations where the elected secretary or treasurer is absent or unable to perform the duties of the position. The secretary and treasurer may or may not be board members. Secretaries and treasurers who are not board members may receive reasonable compensation for service. The board shall elect replacements when either office is vacated or when the board determines that the individual needs to be replaced. So at this time, I'm going to request that the newly elected president administer the election for the position of secretary. So that's what we will do. I'm going to ask at this time if there are any nominations for secretary.
I would like to nominate Shay Fields.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Dr. Von Elliott. I'm sorry.
I wanted to elect Shay Fields as a paid school board member.
As a what?
Elect or nominate.
Are you elected or nominating Shay?
I'm
Fields?
nominating her for a paid school board member, a secretary. I mean.
Can you do that? Yeah, you don't have to be a district employee. I mean, you don't have to be a member of the
Right,
board.
you don't. Okay, are there any other nominations?
Well, let me ask a question. Is that to say that because that's the position that she already operates in, except right now, not as a paid? I guess I'm trying to understand, do we still need another secretary?
You need an
We still
official
need-
secretary elected for the board.
Right.
like the secretary's name is on different documents
Okay.
and so forth.
Okay.
So, yeah, she can do the role she is,
Mhm.
but if the board chooses to vote for her as the board secretary, you have the latitude to do that as well.
Right.
And then it will be paid.
Mhm.
Confusing.
And compensation, as Dr. May indicated, can be attached to that additional duty.
Right. You go ahead and nominate. Oh,
I
okay.
kind of like both of those ideas.
Mhm.
I was just confused. I kind of like both of the ideas. And so I guess I need to ask another question. I'm sorry. If Shay is elected to this position, then we will not have another person. Is that what you're saying?
Shay will be in her role as the governance coordinator and as the secretary of the board. So you would not have, if the board chooses to vote Shay in that position, no one else sitting up here would be the secretary.
Okay.
If you still want to wait, I can. Nomination. So I'll go with my nomination. Okay, was there anybody else that wanted to do nomination? Okay, well, I would like to nominate Wanda Lane to be, board
Please speak into
secretary.
the mic.
I would like to nominate Wanda Lane to be board secretary. Any other nominations? Okay. And the nominations are closed. We don't need to have a second on those. Would you go to the vote, Shay?
Ms. Jackson,
Yes.
No, you're going to first nominations, which is Shay.
Shay. Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Dr. Foley,
If you don't know, that's the.
I want to abstain.
Mhm.
Sure would like to see Shay get more money. Shay feels yes.
Okay.
Boardroom,
No.
Mr. Hartman,
No,
Ms. Discord,
One no, two no. Oh my, how many no's have we got on?
It's 2 yays and 2 noes. Right now, it's 2 yeses and 2 noes.
So there was three. And you said no. I don't know. I love Shay. But I don't know. So then when okay, so it's 4 that'll say Shay. So it would make
No,
it,
right now, there are 2 votes in favor of Shay and 2 votes against Shay being the secretary.
Miranda gonna vote for Shay.
She'll get a chance to vote. You can't say what her vote is going to be.
So that'll be 3.
You can't predict. You gotta do your vote.
Shay.
You can't ask
You
her.
can't ask them, you just have to make a determination. Have to vote. You didn't listen?
1, 2,
What? Did you vote?
no,
Is that a no vote or you didn't vote?
I didn't vote.
Are you abstaining or are you going to vote?
Ms. Discord,
Go to her first.
I've already talked. to
Okay.
her, sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Is that a yes? Did you say yes?
Ms. Lane,
No.
Dr. Avant Elliott,
Yes.
See there?
Okay, so there are 4 yes votes for Shay and 3 no votes for Shay.
Okay,
We still have to do Ms. Lane.
we'll do that.
Your name was nominated. Just so we can make sure we did a fair count.
Fair count, yes.
Ms. Jackson,
No.
Dr. Coleman,
I'm sorry. No. Okay.
Ms. Real,
Yes. Mhm.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Mhm.
Ms. Disworth,
Yes.
You can't vote
You can't
yes
vote yes.
both times.
Oh, okay, no. You have to see I'm new, right?
Ms. Lane,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Dr. May,
No,
Okay, so, Ms. Lane has 3 yeses and 4 nos. So Shay is the secretary for the board. Ms. Sheffield.
Did you want that? Shay?
Okay, I can't ask you.
Oh, okay. Seems like so much work.
Mr. Rowe. Mhm. Okay. We will now entertain the election of a treasurer. I'm asking for nomination.
I would like to nominate, Dr. Singleton because the person has to be bonded
Who's Dr. Singleton?
behind you.
This is Dr. Singleton, our chief financial officer. And you wouldn't know that yet, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, you can ask.
What's the last treasurer?
The person has to be bonded and has a lot of responsibilities, related to finance.
Why she the one always nominates?
Who was the last treasurer of the board, Madam President?
Ms.
Ms. Oswald was the last treasurer of the
Was she
board. She's
bonded?
ex officio, yes.
Just to make sure that you're bonded.
You can become one.
Yes.
Okay.
So
The
we
floor is
have-
open for nominations, other nominations.
I nominate Wanda Lane.
Are there any other nominations? Can I get a member to move to close the nomination? So move. Okay. I need a second. You don't need a second. That's okay, that's okay. Shay, can you read off the individuals?
yes, Dr. Elliott nominated, Dr.
Singleton.
And Dr. Coleman nominated Wanda Lane.
Or can we do no comment? Yeah.
Ms. Jackson,
This is for Mr.
This is for Dr. Singleton.
Singleton.
Yes.
Dr. Coleman,
No.
Mr. Real,
No.
She'll say that. Oh,
Mr. Hartley,
No.
Disworth,
This is for
Ah.
Dr. Singleton.
okay, yes.
Ms. Lane,
No.
Yeah. No.
Dr. Elliott,
Yes,
There are 3 yeses and 4 nos for Dr. Singleton for treasurer.
or Ms. Lane, Wanda Lane. Ms. Jackson,
No.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Real,
Yes.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Ms. Disworth,
Yes.
You said no the last time.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
may I make a point of information?
Yes, ma'am.
I
Yeah.
know, that's why I'm saying something. We discussed this, for the other election, there was 2 yeses before for Nikita and herself and for the president. So I think that yeses can apply for either party.
You are absolutely correct.
Mhm.
Ms. Disworth,
You can say yes if you want.
Yes. Did I say yes?
Ms. Blaine,
Yeah.
Dr. May.
No,
Dr. Von Elliott. I didn't hear you, Dr.
I said no.
Thank you. Dr. Hill.
5 yeses and, 2 nos, but something still doesn't seem quite right. Well, in the presidential election, I'll check it. Don't worry
If
about
we
it.
had a presidential election, I think it was like 2 yeses, something that counted.
It was and each person was counted separately each time. So disregard what I was, just move forward. So right now, that means Ms. Lane is the treasurer. We will get the letterhead changed and so forth, and the appropriate signature for document. That's for the MSBA, correct? I missed that, sorry. Ms. Maura Rio,
Yes, we have one more election, and this election would be for MSBA representative. That person would be our delegate at the delegate assembly. And so the floor is open for someone to serve as our delegate at the MSBA delegate assembly.
I nominate Dr. Coleman.
I nominate Dr. Ellie. That's her name? Yeah.
Okay, so we have one for Dr. Coleman and one for Dr. Elliott. Are there any other nominations? The nominations, can I have a member to request that the nominations be closed?
So moved.
Okay, you don't have to do that. Shay, will you do a roll call vote?
this one says it does require a second. Did
It
you
does
get a
require a
second?
second, I
Yes.
apologize.
The motion to close requires a second.
Okay, well, may I have a second? I apologize.
Second.
And we have a second. Shay, will you do the roll call vote for us, please?
Yes.
Oh, I guess it's confused, I'm sorry. Yeah, now.
First order for Dr. Coleman.
Yes, who was the first one?
So, Dr. Coleman, I'm going to call Dr. Von Elliott.
Yes, you saying we starting mine? Which one we starting with?
This
Dr.
is-
Coleman, the MSBA delegate.
No, so I can vote for myself, I guess.
Ms. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. Fitmore.
This for COVID. No.
Mr. Hartley,
Yes.
Ms. Maria,
Yes.
Yeah.
Dr. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Jackson.
Abstain.
Did you say you won?
She said abstain.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
It's 4 yeses.
Oh, I concede.
Dr. May concedes. That means that Dr. Coleman is the MSBA delegate and we need a alternate.
Alternative.
Dr. Ellie.
Sorry,
Dr. Ellie.
you're nominating Dr. Elliott for
Okay.
the office.
Any other nomination? Can I get a member to close the nomination?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Since there are no other nominations, then the alternate would be Dr. Avant Elliott.
Okay. Thank you all for that. We will now move to Riverview Garden Excellence.
I am standing in for Ishmael Sistrunk, who too is at a conference. Keon could not be here with us tonight. His mom called and something came up. That's the young man who saved his grandmother, but we do want to honor one of our own tonight. And so I would ask Dr. Monica Perry, Assistant Principal of the Riverview Gardens High School, to please come forward. Ooh. Dr. Monica Perry, Assistant Principal at the Riverview Gardens High School, was named the Assistant Principal of the Year for the St. Louis, the whole St. Louis area, Association of Secondary School Principals. Congratulations to Dr. Perry. She was presented the Assistant Principal of the Year award by SSAP President Gary Jansen, EDD, at a special reception on Tuesday, April 5th at the high school library. Perry was nominated for the award by her friend and fellow educator, Natasha Payne. Payne was present at the award announcement along with Dr. Perry's parents, colleagues, and selected RGSH scholars. Dr. Perry was recognized as the Assistant Principal of the Year for the entire St. Louis region. Congratulations, Dr. Perry. We have a certificate for you, and it reads, "Certificate awarded to Dr. Monica Perry for representing Riverview Excellence and being named," it says Assistant Superintendent. Okay, we'll have to change that. We should have read that. Assistant Superintendent, I'm there. Assistant, yeah. So I'll take this back, give it to Shay. We'll get another one when Ishmael gets back. It's a t-shirt. And I would like the board to please come up and take a picture.
Yes, please.
Congratulations.
Shay, at this time, do you have any patrons that wish to address the board? All right. We will then move to announcements. So the first thing that I want to announce is that the district was not required to hold an election because we had 3 members coming off, 3 members coming on, and that is pursuant to state statute 115.124. So what I would like to do is officially introduce you to all of the new board members that we have, and then a returning board member, even though she's not present. So we'll start with Dr. Miranda Avant Elliott.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There she is. Okay. This Sharon Titsworth. She's new to the board, but she's not new to the district. And last but not least, Ms. Jacqueline Jackson. Did either of you want to say anything? No?
I got a chance to say
Dr.
something
May, would you
last
like to say
time.
anything?
I got a chance to say something the last time. I know we needed to have it certified for the minutes. So thank you everyone for the opportunity to serve again, and I'm looking forward to it.
Good, okay. All right, I'm not going to force you. Okay, so we will now move to, before I move, during the time when Dr. Avant Elliott and Mr. Reggie Jones was first appointed to the board, unfortunately, what happened, the state of Missouri decided to pull our membership from the National School Board Association. And so a new group has been formed, and it's called the Consortium of State School Boards Association. And I get a weekly letter, a little delayed. So board members, what I gave you was a copy, and Dr. Adams, you have one to share. I believe you have one for Dr. Elliott and Ms. Oswald as well. And this is the organization that the state of Missouri, Missouri School Board Association is working with. If you would like to be put on their list to receive these weekly blasts, you can get in touch with me and I can show you how to sign up for them. But I just wanted you all to have this. This is lets you know what's going on a regular basis with our new consortium. We haven't attended any conferences that they have because it's still a relatively new place. Thank you, and I have this too. Okay, so this is just for your information. The other thing that we want to get started on is our board committees and advisory groups. So each board member, you should have a sheet here. This is based on policy BCE, board committees and advisory committees to the board. And we have a CSIP committee, a turnaround committee, an audit committee, a policy review committee, negotiations committee. And then the new proposed one for 2023 is a community engagement committee. So I really like for you to look these over. Dr. Phillips.
I'm sorry, Ms. Maria, they don't have a copy right now.
Oh, they don't, okay.
What we wanted you to do is just put it on their radar, and then we will send them the list with just a small synopsis of what each committee does.
Good. And I'm going to ask if you will look at that right away so that we can get these committee assignments filled so we can move forward.
There is a little bit of urgency on at least one. Right now, Ms. Jackson sits on the turnaround committee, so she may choose to stay on that. But we are also in the process of rewriting the district's comprehensive school improvement plan for MSIP 6. And we had our first steering committee meeting 2 weeks ago, and we have one tomorrow. So as soon as we can get a board member who indicates interest in being on that committee, we would appreciate it. It's one of the requirements by DESE.
Bingo. Are there any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Avant Elliott.
I did have a question, Madam President,
Yes,
about do we have a parent engagement committee?
So if I could, we do have a parent advisory committee, but with the new law that Ms. Morrill just mentioned, that'll be a new committee where we will have a community engagement committee that will have to have a board representative on there. We are currently working on the survey to send out so we can get input on a communications plan. A community engagement plan that we have to have a policy in place by July 1, and then we have to get a plan in place. So that is coming. And so that is one of the lists that Ms. Morrill indicated.
Are there any additional questions? We will now have, are there any other announcements? I apologize. Okay, we will now have our RGSD student representative report.
Good evening, SAB, Dr. JPA, staff, and students. First, I would like to give a congratulations to our newly elected board members. We know that you will be an amazing asset to our district to help shape and guide our students throughout their education experience. So congratulations, everyone. Going further, I want to encourage all of our students who are ready and who are starting their EOCs and their MAPs, just to encourage them and give them the support that they need to help keep going and striving and be the best they can do. Going further into detail, at the high school, we all have amazing gifts that we are giving out for our scholars, which composes of iPads, Nike gift cards, pizza parties, and also Beyonce Renaissance ticket. Yes. On April, yes. On April 29th, the seniors at the high school will be having their prom at Chase Park Plaza. As you all may know, that this location is really fancy and illustrious, and we're grateful to have this prom hosted there this year. May 5th, the seniors at the high school will be having their decision day. The name of this event is titled, "Oh, the Places You'll Go." We're excited to have this event to acknowledge the hard work that the students have been doing throughout their education experience, and just know all the amazing things that they'll accomplish in their future. Lastly, quick reminder, on May the 25th, we will be hosting our graduation ceremony for the seniors at the high school at UMSU. This concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay. I think that you've made your decision about college. Would you like to share that information?
Oh, yes. It was a difficult decision, but I'm grateful to say that I'm going to attend Washington University on a full 4-year ride. So, yeah, thank you.
I couldn't let her get away with that. She shared that with me, and it made me so proud. She lives right around the corner from me, so that just made me really, really so proud. So proud. We will now turn this over to our superintendent for the superintendent report.
I have quite a few, so if you just bear with me. Precious, would you like to show your most recent award from the NAACP? You didn't say that either.
Okay.
I know we have people looking online, but I just received the Stay Focused Foundation NAACP Award from the St. Louis County. If you all can see. So actually it's a globe connected to this. So basically this globe will show like you can travel anywhere around the world and still be the amazing person and impact so many lives. So it's connected on here. You can spin it around. So yes.
Thank you. We have a thank you card from Dr. Nikita Coleman in response to the board appreciation. It says, "Thank you to the faculty, staff, and administrative team of the Riverview Gardens School District. Words cannot express my heartfelt gratitude for your overwhelming show of love and support for me. I am honored to serve you, Dr. Nikita Coleman." Precious Rich and Prom coming up this weekend. This is the prom invitation. If you have not seen it, you open it and the box comes open and it's actually a globe and it's just too cute. And it's called, where's the name? Chaseport Plaza. It's the snowflake ball, I think it's called, but that's the invitation. It's too cute. As she also indicated, MAP testing has started. So I encourage those of you within listening distance to get a good night's sleep, eat a hearty breakfast, show up and show out. We need to have 90% of our students take the MAP test and each of the assessed content areas in order to get credit for it. And there's lots of MAP reps that are circling the district. I think you received the one from Ms. Shaw. There's one from Dr. Patton and Dr. Tiffany Patton and her crew, which includes Dr. Tiffany Hunter, Ms. Benson, Ms. Curtis, and Markayla Goss. There's one from me. one from Dr. Tanya Patton, and one from Monica Williams that will be sent out over time. And I'm not the best rapper in the world, but I did my best. And that's what we're asking our scholars to do on the MAP test, is to do their best. Also, you heard me mention CSIP. We are in the process of spearheading the new revamp, revision, rewrite of the district's comprehensive school improvement plan to be in compliance with MSIP 6. Leading this for our district is Dr. Stacy Nichols in collaboration with Dr. Mary Hendricks Harris from Ed Plus. The steering committee has one meeting. We have our second meeting tomorrow. Dr. May, if you're available, we'll be at the high school tomorrow from 8 until approximately 3 o'clock, where we will go through some of the district's data. On May 1st and May 2nd, we are asking all of our staff, not just certified staff, support staff, all of you to please come out on May 1st and or May 2nd to the Central Services location here to have your voice heard on the strengths, the weaknesses that exist in our district, and having your voice at the table. One of the things we want to ensure is that our parents, our community, and our faculty and staff have an opportunity to give input on this plan, because it is the plan that will drive the district as we move forward. On May 8th, we will have the same type of forum for all of our community stakeholders to come out and have a voice at the table as well. It is our plan to bring the plan to the SAB at the last meeting in June. So then we'll send it to the state and begin implementing. On May 1st, next Monday, we have our Parent Advisory Council Family Dinner. This dinner will be held at Westview at 6 p.m. and it is open to all of our parents. Also this Saturday, the Little Bit Foundation will sponsor Laura's Run. It will start at 8 o'clock at Soldiers Memorial downtown, 1315 Chestnut. Those of you who know the Little Bit Foundation does so much for this district in terms of human resources, in terms of food, in terms of clothing. And we're gonna have a ribbon cutting soon for the food market at Coke. We have one in Highland already. So I sent out another email today if anyone is interested in registering for Laura's Run. It's a way of us giving back through service, the service that they provide to us. And I will be passing out the awards at the end of the 5K. We talked about prom. Also on May 4th, we will honor our retirees and our people who have been through us for the long haul with the Years of Service Award. That too will be held in Westview Middle School at 5:30 on May the 4th. And I think I've covered everything, and that concludes my announcement.
All right.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay, our first item for information is the program evaluation for the Library Media Center. This is in compliance with CSIP's Goal 1 and Board Policy IIAC, Instructional Media Center and School Libraries. Making this presentation is Ms. Tanya Ross and her team, ELA Coordinator.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. JPA, colleagues, and school community. Before we get started with our program evaluation, we do have some librarians present this evening, and if it's okay, I'd like to acknowledge them. If you all would please stand. So in attendance tonight, you can just introduce yourself and just speak loud so everyone can hear you.
The library. I'm Lorraine Hicks, librarian at Highland Elementary.
I am Jen Dix, librarian at Bowling. Amy Bray, Darcy Lusher, Blackfield. Kim Nay, Coke Elementary.
All right, thank you. And then Darcy Lesher and Kimberly Nay are doing our presentation tonight. So welcome them up.
I just want to do a shout out to Patty Love. I thought that was you sitting over there. How are you? You.
Oh.
I thought that was you. I haven't seen her in a very, probably doesn't even remember who I am, but I haven't seen her in a very long time.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, Special Administrative Board, administrators, staff, and community members. We're here tonight to share with you our program evaluation for library media centers. We've already introduced all of our library media specialists who are here this evening.
So our first information for you this evening are the changes from the 2021 to 2022 school year. We have been in compliance with the SB 775, which is the removal of sexually explicit material from the school libraries. We have, as a librarian team, created a spreadsheet that we share among ourselves, that if we find a book, we locate and we put the title so that we all can make sure we've removed it from our library. That means also that we're making sure, especially at the middle school and high schools, that if it is adult material, that if it's a picture book or has any illustrations, they are being flipped through, looked at closely so that we are in compliance with the Senate bill. Mm-hmm. We are transitioning libraries into media centers with maker spaces. We have started, all of our librarians have been delivered a Padcaster, which we'll show you a video shortly what that is, and iPads for kindergarten through 12th grade. Most of our libraries have Chromebooks, a classroom set, and those that are not set up with that yet, they are in the process of getting their Chromebooks. We are also purchasing Lego builder kits for kindergarten through 5th grade and robotics entry kits for kindergarten through 8th grade.
All right, our goals and objectives for 2022 and 2023. First was to meet the district circulation goal of 125,000 books checked out for the year. Our last count, we were around 90,000, so we should be very close to our goal for this year. Also to update all of our collections to a copyright average of 2012 and to increase media and digital literacy concepts that impact literacy.
So, our success of our programs, the average library collection was dated at 2003 in February of 2020. And as of April 2023, it is at 2006. However, there are still approximately 4 or 5 libraries that have not been inventoried or checked through due to vacancies. So that number could be a little bit higher than the 2006. STL Books for Kids grant, Glasgow had $2,000 worth of purchase, over 800 books. Those books go home to the students to create their own libraries at home. Second graders are also given books for free to create their home libraries from the Barnes Jewish Christian Book Brigade. Increase the usage of World Book Online, which is a program that is available in all of the buildings. Plus, we can send it home with the students, and they can use that on their own computers at home. In 2022 was 263,320 usages. In 2023, it was 1,189,120 usages. We also receive donations from the Little Bit Foundation. That's the company that Dr. JPA was just talking about. They come in twice a year and they have a book fair. Each student in the building gets to choose 2 books of their own, again, to continue building their homeschool library. In the fall, we handed out 3,860 books. In the spring, we've handed out 9,924 books.
All right, the tools and criteria that we use to evaluate our libraries. We use Destiny Manager, which gives us our circulation checkout numbers. We use World Book Online. That's our research database that our students can use. Our Library Media Center's teacher collaboration documents, where we're collaborating with teachers to see how we can support them in their classroom. Title-wise analysis, that gives us an overview of our library collection, copyright year, and other analysis. And we also have the Overdrive Marketplace, which is the Sora app that is connected to the St. Louis County Library, where our students can check out books online through St. Louis County Library.
The graph you see before you is monthly circulation data. It starts in August and runs through March. So the shorter one in August obviously would be when the school year began. And as you can see, I can't see the numbers. I'm so sorry. They're really small up there on the screen. But as you can see, each month it will go up and down. That can be due to less days in school. Again, we have vacancies in the district and some of our libraries, so they may not be checking out as many books or at all. We do know that February is the tallest of the month. That is because that is around the time of the year that most of the grade levels begin learning how to do research projects. And so there'll be a higher checkout, especially in the nonfiction area.
And this graphic shows our World Book Online usages. That's where the students can get online and do research for various topics. For 2021-2022 school year, we had a big rise around October, November, December, January, and same thing this past school year between November and January. And once again, we're doing a lot of research during that time, but this just shows how many usages we've had of our students using World Book Online. One of our goals was to make our libraries into maker spaces where students have the ability to do more creative problem-solving type activities. At Glasgow, we have robotics clubs. So you can see a couple pictures of them. They're learning how to code at a very elementary level to prepare them for middle school and beyond. And then here are some other examples at other libraries of students doing problem-solving makerspace activities.
One of the new programs that we've received is called Padcaster, and it is a program that through the use of an iPad, we can make using green screens. The students can record themselves. They can make a news story. They could do reports. We have all received the Padcaster and we're beginning to learn how to use that. So we do have a short video. We're only going to just show the first young lady speaking so you can see what it looks like.
Fourth announcement, welcome to school this week. Scholar goal for November, citizenship. Do you want to listen to your favorite music, dance, and play games with your friends? Then you need to follow the school rules. In classroom, hallways, and cafeteria will get to celebrate at our Danforth Dragon Party on Thursday, November the 30th. Kindergarten, 2nd through 2nd in the morning, and 3rd through 5th grades in the afternoon. Also, Friday, November the 11th, school event, Chad's Missouri presentation, 5th grade, 9 a.m. to 11, talking about emotion management.
I had to move Lori behind her.
So if you would want to see more, it's about a 5-minute video. We'll show you some more students doing their Padcaster broadcast.
One of our main roles as library media specialists is to promote literacy. And so the next few slides show a lot of pictures of that. We have some students who are receiving their books from the STL Books for Kids grants on the left. And then on the right, Coach School and Glasgow School went on a field trip called the largest book party in St. Louis. We did that back in the fall where the students got to listen to community members read, and they each got to speak from 4 books to put in their library. There's some more pictures of different activities at some of the other schools during Read Across America. Each school kind of does their own things to promote literacy.
Our next steps for the libraries are training in Lego engineering and Autobot robotic kits, create library media center manuals, continue to weed and update libraries, and fill library media specialist vacancies. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
I was just interested in what is the partnership with the public libraries? How do you all collaborate?
With the St. Louis County Library,
Yes.
well, the Sora app allows the children to get on to the county library, where instead of having just access to 7,000 books, they'll have access to over 25,000 books, by combining it with the MoreNet that is in our district. We also have bookmobile comes to some of our buildings. They don't come to all of them due to their lack of time, staffing, and extra bookmobile. So,
Dr. Elliott, with the Sora app, not only can you connect with St. Louis County Library, but you can connect with any public library that uses Overdrive as its database. So the students really have access to more libraries in St. Louis County. So that would include our St. Louis City Library too. Are there any other questions?
Thank you all.
The next item, in the absence of Ms. Sharp, who is at a conference, and Mr. Travis Boyd Senior, who is at a conference, I get to introduce the next item for presentation. The next item is the update on our turnaround schools. Our hope is to each month bring you a presentation from our schools and the work that they're doing with Solution Tree. For our new board members, you may not know that March of 2022, the Missouri Department of Elementary and Secondary Education identified 3 of the schools in the Riverview Gardens School District as turnaround schools. That was Highland, Lewis and Clark, and Meadows. And so the state is actually funding 3 years of work with the vendor Solution Tree. Our Board of Education also agreed to fund monies for Solution Tree to work with all of our other schools. And so the first presentation tonight will be made by the leadership of Lewis and Clark and the leadership of Meadows. And they will talk to you about the work that they're doing. As I indicated earlier, our own board member, Ms. Jacqueline Jackson, is a member of the Turnaround Committee. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Keisha Fine. I think you're first. Let me check.
I think it's pretty.
It may be Dr. Winfield may be first. I think you're right. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Winfield.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, and community. I'm here tonight to share with you some progress that we're making along with Solution Tree.
And our representative, Ben
Oh,
Tilly, is here.
sorry. And Mr. Ben Tilly is here, who's been supporting us. Are you reading all this section? Are you reading this? This was Barb Sharp's part. She told me earlier today you were doing it.
She did tell me that. Okay. Thank you. The turnaround is in compliance with Senate Bill 365, which allowed the establishment of a School Turnaround Act, which requires the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to assist public and charter schools in need of intervention. Next slide, please. The turnaround is in compliance also with Section 161.1080-161.1130 of the revised Missouri statutes that talks about those schools in need of intervention. There's some explicit criteria that must be met in order for entry and exit of the program. It is a 3-year collaborative. It is to provide access to qualified independent school experts, of which Solution Tree was the one we identified of the 6 that the State Department received bids on. And then they pay those school turnaround experts. Ms. Barbara Sharp, who is the Executive Director of Continuous Improvement and Title IX, is the district's liaison to Solution Tree. I'm sorry, I'm on the next slide. Oh, am I? Yeah,
No,
right there.
I
She works collaboratively with the Solution Tree vendors She's also in the schools. I meet with Dr. Susan Kramer once a month, and our leadership team has leadership training with Dr. Claire Sales Davis once a month. The coaches are assigned to each building. They are in the buildings 2 days a month. And so this work, the goal is that it will lead us to more higher performing student achievement. Next slide, please. She also assists in monitoring buildings and what's happening in each building and collaborating and communicating with the report. For example, we have to give a report to DESE in June, and Solution Tree will be making that report with us. Next slide, please. Okay, the plans that you will hear tonight contain recommendations for specific changes, measurable student achievement goals, professional development. They have a budget, there's constant progress monitoring, stakeholder communication, and an implementation timeline. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, but I'm going to say this last one. I am so far off slides, it's not even funny. The first year, that's the year we're in now, that's our remedial year. And so it's a lot of intensive work taking place. I'm not going to read all of that. If you just go to the next slide, please. In order to exit, one of the things that has to happen, we must show improvement in ELA, which is our English language arts, and in our mathematics. That was one of the stipulations that the state built into the request for proposals, and which Solution Tree was able to show a history of working with schools and turning them around. And part of it says they have to guarantee, let me say it again, they have to guarantee that there will be an increase in student performance in ELA and math in order for them to get their final payment. Now we're ready for Meadows Elementary School. Tell Ms. Sharp I didn't screw up too bad.
Okay. So the first screen is my guiding coalition, which is a building leadership team. The change came from Solution Tree that they're guiding all of the efforts. We adopted the same motto as the district, that we're a new view on the horizon where learning is required. Our vision is that all students will be successful. They'll be successful academically, socially, and emotionally. Within this process, we set 30, 60, 90-day goals for our leadership team and the building, where 50% of our students will become proficient or advanced in ELA and math. I have a 9-member team that consists of the majority of teachers from each grade level, as well as a reading specialist, instructional coach, and a counselor. For the collaborative teams, which is what we do like our data teams, we spend a lot of time working on developing common formative assessments where our teachers are really digging deep into the data and analyzing if we're breaking down the standard appropriately. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I got it. All right. So the last evaluation we had was that we are level 3 practicing. We do have tiered intervention. Next year, our focus is going to be on intensifying our math intervention. This year, we've been working heavily on ELA. We utilize, of course, the district curriculum, the Freckle program through Star Renaissance, and we're utilizing Florida Center of Reading Research for our reading interventions and intensive math interventions for our Tier 3. So the next data is about, we have an attendance team. We're working hard on increasing attendance. And you can see from last year in February, we were at 74% of average daily attendance. And this February, we were at 89%. And our 90-90 attendance was at 45 up to 64 in February. I am going to say I'm very concerned about our attendance right now. The weather has seemed to impact it greatly. So we have some fun activities planned for the month. Students have to meet the 90, we actually raised it for the monthly attendance to 98% attendance. So they might get an extra recess, some snacks, something to play. And now for the next 2 months, we're working on academics, behavior, academics and behavior. And through that, they're going to get to attend a field day if they meet the criteria. So discipline-wise, we are seeing an increase from March as well. I don't have that on there, but we started seeing an increase in February in discipline incidents. So if you look at the math, this is from our Spring Star score. We just completed it at Meadows. And you'll see in the fifth grade has 11% in proficient or advanced. And if that's a direct correlation with MAP testing, we should see an increase from last year where we had 0 students achieving on the MAP test in math. So I'm hoping to see an increase in third grade as well. Overall, I'd like to see an increase everywhere. We've had Ms. Mott come out to the building and provide instruction on math centers and how to utilize that time effectively. These are just our tiered intervention groups. Those initials are just students that fall within that intervention. And if you, I don't know, can I click on a link within my?
Can she click a link and it open up? They may have to do it for you. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you probably won't have access. Okay. Yeah, sorry. So each link has a linked intervention to the math interventions as well as the reading interventions that we utilize. And we tier our groups based on percentile ranking on STAR assessment. In ELA, we're pretty excited about the growth that we're making in ELA. If these are in correlation with MAP, we'll definitely see a big increase in third grade and fifth grade MAP assessment. But we're really focusing on the lower level skills and getting everybody where they need to be. So we have put in a lot of interventions at kindergarten and first and second grade. We've utilized all of our support staff, such as counselors, home to school coordinator, social worker, the elective teachers. They all go in each day for 40 minutes and help provide direct instruction to our younger scholars. We also utilize the services of Literacy Lab for the second grade. And as you can see, our data is looking much better in the lower grades. And so we hope to continue that progress throughout the year. These are just a few snapshots of things that have been going on at Meadows. We participated in the Math Fact Challenge. Miss Liggett, who was our teacher of the year, she's here building relationships, eating lunch with her students, as well as providing small group instruction, interventions. And we spend every Monday in data teams. One week we'll do ELA, the next week we'll do math. And the teachers are there analyzing the data, sharing their resources. And Miss Thomas, who's my instructional coach, she and I spend time breaking down the questions to make sure they're rigorous enough because we're seeing the grade correlation isn't matching the standards. So we're working hard on creating more rigorous CFAs, which curriculum, common formative assessments. That's what I'm trying to come out with. All right. You want me to do questions for me or wait?
I think we wait till the end.
Okay.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. JPA, colleagues, and of course, the community. So I am the current principal of the fabulous Lewis and Clark Elementary. And there's my wonderful grandma sitting over there. Okay. So Lewis and Clark, a part of what we did with Solution Tree was we narrowed down our focus with our mission and our vision statement. And our kids focus on our values every day. So if you ever come into our building, our morning meetings, you will hear the kids say, we are respectful, we are responsible, we are safe, because we are the best of the best here at Lewis and Clark, because learning is a requirement and not an option. So as Dr. Winfield was stating that we had a guiding coalition. So the guiding coalition basically, previous terms, was our leadership team. And so because we're adopting a new format with our PLCs, so our guiding coalition, which is your former leadership team, has changed the name. So it's basically your leadership team. And so for my leadership team, these are the members that are part of my leadership team. Right. This is our 30, 60, 90, which we work with Solution Tree. So meaning the first 30 days, these are the goals that we worked on. The second 90, the 60 days, we worked on these, and the 90 days. So as you can see, we have met all of our goals thus far. And it says ongoing, which you're never complete. It's constantly working until we get all of our students at proficient and above. This will be an ongoing task, point blank, period. So it says completed because we've addressed the task, but it will continue. It's continuous. This is our data dashboard. And as you can see, the same trend, it's getting warm outside. And so certain times of the year, our behaviors increase. And so February, they increase significantly. And we put in some different interventions in place and some incentives for our scholars. So they're working for their level up party and they're working for their bikes. We have bikes that we're auctioning off. And if I could have March up there, the data would be significantly lower. So we dropped from 16, I think I'm all the way down to like 5 scholars for March. So, and then we're in April. My first suspension was today, unfortunately. But anyway, it has dropped significantly. So we've incorporated a lot of interventions and incentives to drop that. This is our math focus. And as you can see, our data, I've had to learn, I was told by a little bird to celebrate the small stuff. And so at the beginning of the year with second grade, we started off with 87% of the scholars below basic. And I just want to put out there that my staff is all guest teachers, every one of them. And so we have shown growth with all of my guest teachers. I don't have any certified staff. And so we went from 85% below basic to 83% below basic. Not a significant change, but we're celebrating the small stuff and we're constantly working. And we also went to 3% advanced. We didn't have any before. And so, you know, trying to keep my staff encouraged and my scholars. Fourth grade, we went from 78% below basic to 74% basic below basic. To 70% below basic. What I really want to emphasize is my fifth grade, and grandma can attest to our fifth grade. We've had 88% below basic, and he has significantly changed those numbers to 57% below basic. So we're celebrating our small stuff. So our intervention groups were made from our STAR data. We created them from our STAR data. And as you can see, it has the number of scholars there. And those are the scholars that were pooled specifically to work on math, to move them from below basic to get some growth. And as you can see, and this data is from January. Currently, we're still doing our STAR. We're in the middle of STAR testing and MAP testing. And so not to overload my scholars, what we have done is we've broken up the testing time. So they've done MAP first. And once they finish MAP, we give them a week to kind of woosah, and then we move on to STAR. So we don't want to test overload them. So this data is from January. So from the beginning of the year to January, and I'm pretty sure we will show some growth for May scores. So, but like I was saying, this data shows you how many scholars we had for intervention that we pulled from their STAR data, where they started at 71% below, and now we have them moved up to 29% below basic. This is our ELA focus. And as you can see, we put kindergarten on this one. And kindergarten is special because they do early literacy. And early literacy encompasses math and ELA. So they don't necessarily take a STAR test for just English and a STAR test for math. It's combined for them. And what I want to point out with my kindergarten group is that we have 21 scholars and 26% of them are proficient and above. And so we do have a significant low number of 50%. And so most of those kids are in our intervention to ensure that they're grasping their alphabets and phonics. But that 26%, they can read, which is what we're working on, making sure that they come out reading in kindergarten. And here's the data that's showing. So the low group that was 50%, now we've broken that to half and half. So 5 kids that we're still working on, and then 5 kids have moved up. So they've made some gains. And this is our name it and claim it. So my 3rd grade loves working on inferencing, and we all know that's a hard task to grasp. And so they put pictures up, the teacher put pictures up on the sticky boards, and the kids had to go around the room and infer what the picture was determining. And so this is their project for that. And then we have a teacher scholar board. So whenever you walk into the classroom, you don't have to ask what's being taught. The kids can tell you, and it's up on the board so you can see exactly what's going on in the building and in the classroom. We won the district science fair. First place. So I taught 1st grade for 5 weeks. And that's our 1st grader. And that was our project. We did a bare facts project. And the 5th graders actually won the project. Thanks to Dr. Hunter. She did a phenomenal job doing our science fair. And this is our Guardian Gala. So we have tried to do a lot of fun things and build a sense of community in our building and build up our parent participation. So we did a Guardian Gala. I have a lot of scholars who don't have, their parents may have passed. And so I didn't want to say mom and dad dance. So we said Guardian Gala. They got dressed up. They came, they had dinner, they danced, they took pictures, they had a blast. So these are just a few things that we're doing at the fabulous LNC.
I do have a question. Yes, ma'am. And I don't know if I misheard you or I don't know. You said something about your staff being all guest teachers?
Absolutely.
Except for your SSD staff?
Yes, I am. And my special teacher.
Your entire staff?
The entire staff.
The entire staff.
Then I guess I have a question about JP. Has there been any thought of moving staff?
Yes, for next year, there's some thought about moving staff. We actually did one move this year, but it was from Lewis and Clark to another location for other reasons. But yes, we're looking at doing some things differently. We're also looking at hiring teachers from out of the country to also come in. So yes, but I will just say that Ms. Fife, if you walked in her building, you would not know they were guest teachers. I was there the other day and you would have no clue. The other thing I want to do a plug also for Meadows. I saw Ms. Fife indicate that they won the science fair. Meadows won the Lego robotics competition for the district. So two of our turnaround schools are, unintended, turning it around.
I'd like to ask a question about the interventions. I like the way you term that, but basically what you're saying is students aren't coming to school. Because, or am I not understanding?
So interventions are, so say it's ELA. We would pull those scholars looking at their STAR data and work on the concepts or standards that they're lacking in. So say it's 1st grade, they may struggle with cause and effect. They may struggle with main idea. And so that intervention teacher will pull them and work specifically on those skills to reinforce that foundation. That's what we mean by intervention.
So when you made a comment about the weather having something to do with that, that was not.
That was.
No, behaviorally. We're saying as the weather changes and fluctuates, behaviors
I
do
can
too.
understand that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for some reason, like when it's warm and it first starts becoming warm, our behaviors start escalating. So
Yes.
everybody wants to get out, they want to run around. And so we have to put in like incentives as interventions, like they have to meet the academics, they have to meet the attendance, they have to meet the behavior expectations of the building in order to participate in these things, trying to encourage scholars to follow the expectations of the school.
And are the parents involved in this?
So yes, we definitely have lots of parent meetings. If we're having students that are having high incidence of behaviors, they have to come in. We do contracts with them. We develop plans we might have a check-in with our home to school coordinator or one of the counselors. So we have different levels of steps to assist our scholars who are struggling.
And the same thing with attendance. You talked about the weather impacting behavior. The weather significantly impacts attendance, particularly for elementary and the lower level grades. Kindergarten, I think right now for the district is the most seriously impacted because if it's chilly outside, parents don't bring their kids in.
If it's raining, they're not coming.
If it's raining, they don't come. And that's the thing, that's one of the things we really have to stress. And I think you heard me say earlier, we have to have 90% of our students show up and be tested in the district in each content area in order to receive the APR scores for that content area.
Well, before I ask my question, I was gonna ask if any other board member had a question.
Yes, I had a question, but I can wait for Reverend Jackson.
Okay, my question was, Wilson Clark. What are we doing to, like, the 5th grade teacher there that she talked about is awesome, and losing him would be a service to the school because he's turned around. I deal with the 5th graders on a regular basis. So what are we doing to help so that he can get what he needs to be able to be certified teacher?
So we are currently looking at some programs to get him the alternative certification. He does have some college credits. And so we've been talking with Dr. JPA and Mrs. Sharp so that we can see if there's a way that we can help him pay to go to school and get certified. So we are looking into that.
Thank you, because he's, like I said, he's great. He's great.
He is.
So my question has to deal with.
Dr. May also had one.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. May, I apologize.
Okay, my question was around, I think it was when she called my name and made me blank, but let me think. Oh, I know what it was. Dr. Pruitt Adams, I noticed that Meadows is not on your APR letter. What impact does it have with the turnaround and then versus Danford being,
So,
you know?
it has nothing to do with turnaround. Meadows is still a turnaround school. What the district does annually, or what the state does annually, when they present the APR, districts such as ours who are in the bottom 5% have to list those schools that for that current APR are in the 5%. And so while Meadows is not listed, Danforth is now listed. And so all of the APRs are, every building's APR plus ours is on the website. But by law, we have to say the schools are attendance sites for that particular APR window that are in the 5%. But Meadows will be a turnaround school throughout this process because that is part of the agreement that the state made with Solution Tree.
Okay, so my other question was about the attendance issue and families accessing instruction even when they're out of school. With the shifts in the pandemic and everything that has happened with technology, is it not an option for families to remote in when they are not present in class so they can still get instruction?
That's also a directive from DESE as it relates to attendance. So, you know, previously parents could sign up for MOCAP, which is a virtual school, and the scores would then be allocated to the homeschool. Not anymore, because we had students who were in MOCAP who were failing. And when I say we, I mean just school districts in general. And so now if you are a MOCAP student, you are a MOCAP student. As it relates to virtual, if we have some teachers currently who teach virtual to our kids who are on site. Desi told us last year as we were coming out of the pandemic that if we shut down a class, if we had to shut down a class who had COVID, then we could provide virtual instruction to them. But just providing an AMI day because kids can't come to school or they have a cold, we can no longer do that. What we do offer, though, if students are going to be off long term, we offer them an opportunity for virtual instruction. By long term, I'm talking suspension.
Okay, but it won't count for attendance, the long-term.
No. Oh, it doesn't. We get attendance when we have students out for long-term suspension, yes. But if I'm out today or my mom decides to keep me out because the weather is bad, we do not get ADA for that.
Okay, but we can offer something regardless of attendance, right? We can offer virtual instruction to reduce the learning gap. We just won't get attendance.
If they are on suspension, we can, but we can't tie it to an AMI day anymore like you could when COVID was rampant. So like last year, we could not close a school. We could not close the district down even if COVID was rampant in the district. And that's tied to what Desi has told us. They want kids on site in school.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So my question has to deal with the percentage of times that students are not in school. When I was growing up, we had a friend whose parents were charged with educational neglect because they rarely made it to school. And it wasn't that they couldn't come to school. It was that, like you said, if it's rainy, the mother just said, go back to bed. I don't feel like getting dressed and walking you up there. So do we have situations?
We do hotline for educational neglect. We have over 50% transient population though. And so I could be enrolled at Meadows 1 month and then disappear.
Wow.
And then come back and be at Lewis and Clark and then disappear.
Wow.
And we had a lengthy discussion a couple of weeks ago because in the past, if you were out 10 days, then we could withdraw you 10 consecutive days. We could withdraw you until you return. It's now 20 days. And I looked it up because I questioned it myself. And it changed a couple of years ago that it's 20 days and then you can go back to that last day of attendance, but you have to follow it. It's called stop out.
Okay.
New term for me.
Yeah.
But it's called stop out. We do, if we know that there's a parent who is consistently just not bringing their child to school, or even who has a pattern, that pattern of I'm not there on Mondays, I'm not there on Fridays, I'll come on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we can hotline them. The difficulty is with DFS also being understaffed. There's a lot of cases that we have hotlined this year for multiple reasons, even educational neglect that they say are unfounded.
Wow.
I want to make sure I don't understand. I didn't misunderstand. 50%
Transient.
The whole district?
Yes. As a whole. That means that now our data shows that students who start with us and stay with us, versus an example of that, do well. But we have a high student in transition population, that's our SID students. And we are under a different umbrella than most school districts that fall under the McKinney-Vento Act because of a lawsuit that was filed against the district several years ago. And so we have to take students, even if we suspect that they don't live here and that they may be moving about, we have to take them until we can prove otherwise. And so we do have, we've had students this year, because I got a couple of them whose families have called and said, my child has been suspended from Hazelwood School District or Ferguson Florissant School District. And I was told all I have to do is come enroll in Riverview Gardens. And you know, when we turn them down, they say, well, I was told my counselor at school XYZ told me to come here. So when you have students in and out like that, the other thing is tracking those students who maybe dropouts or not dropouts, it's hard sometimes to get the records from other school districts. And we received a notice just this week of some students that we thought were dropouts that have now showed up in another district. So we can back them out. But all of that goes against us for attendance when they don't show up. And we do the best we can. We have homeschool coordinators, but also because we are short-staffed, they are sometimes in classrooms taking over classes versus being able to call and do the home visits, which is what their job actually entails.
Thank you.
So thank you so much.
all so much.
Thank you, ladies. The next item is the special school district SSD reimbursement agreement for early childhood. Making this presentation is Dr. Amina Williams, our Director of Early Childhood at Michelle Obama.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues, scholars, and community members. I'm presenting an item for discussion pertaining to a special school district reimbursement agreement for the Early Childhood Education Center. The Riverview Gardens School District annually submits a contract with Special School District for SAB approval to be reimbursed for providing certain services to facilitate the provision of early childhood special education. Exhibit A is attached. You can see all of the costs on there. These items and the estimated reimbursement are as follows. Utilities at $17,500, custodial costs at $46,000, nurse salary and benefits at $18,000, and supplies and $50 in copier costs at $1,100. The total reimbursement is $82,650. This is a reimbursement from SSD to the Early Childhood Center, and this is a continuation of a past partnership and agreement, and it is recommended that the Special Administrative Board approves the agreement as presented. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As you know, we pulled item B, Amira. So now we're going to formative assessment. Making this presentation is Dr. Phil Kennedy, Executive Director of Data and Assessment. Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you. Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues and community. This is the annual renewal for a assessment platform that we utilize. It's called Formative. And a few years ago, we started creating district-wide common formative assessments, or you heard Dr. Winfield talk about the ones they're making with Solution Tree. We have ones that we completed the process with, making that our map 110% map-like. We started with the release items from MAP. And as you may or may not know, with MAP testing, a student can be asked a question over a concept or a standard. They can be asked it one way in a multiple choice format. They can be asked it as a technology enhanced question. It could be matching. So it could be asking the question. The question could be asking the student to demonstrate their knowledge, but it could be different every year. Or even some years, if they asked that or answered that question in multiple choice last year, this year they might see it in multiple choice and technology enhanced. And when you break down our data, our students do not score well on the technology enhanced questions. And that's because they weren't given enough time to practice with it, because it's more than just demonstrating your knowledge. And so 2 years ago, we came across this platform Formative, which allowed us to create digitally CFAs, and it allowed with a lot of different choice or question options. So our students are getting exposure to the different types of questions that they would be exposed to on MAP. I tried to pull, Timmy, can you click on the button that says the SAB data?
And Dr. Kennedy, while he's doing that, because we have some new board members, could you tell them what a CFA is?
I want to ask that.
Okay, yeah. So common formative assessments is that we take a look at our district curriculum and we look at what the priority standards and the supporting standards are, and then we create test questions based upon the standards that the teachers will be teaching. And so common is that it's it's no matter if you're at Koch or if you're at Lewis and Clark or if you're at Meadows, those CFAs are the same for each of those levels. And whenever they get done teaching them through the district curriculum, then they can administer the CFA. And this screen right here is, I couldn't show you, I wanted to pull up the actual product, but I can't because it has student scores in there, actual scores, and this is a public meeting, so I can't do that. But as you can see, you have this is a report within the last 14 days. You can see the schools that have been using them. If you check on that little arrow next to the school's name and the little scholar hat, it'll drop down and it'll show you all the teachers that administered a CFA. So you have district, and then from there, if I'm one of the, let's say the 2 4th grade teachers that gave that assessment, then I'm going to click on my name and I'm going to see all my students. And the other option that we like about Formative is that as a teacher administering this, I can have my kids log on and I can watch it as they're taking the test, and I can see live scoring. And then if I see someone that's making a mistake, I can type in there into a chat and say, hey, you need to go back and check it, question number 2, because I think you missed one of the steps. I'm not giving them the answers. I'm just wanting them to make sure that we get everything that we can and that they know out of them. So that is a unique situation for a platform, but then also too, the amount of test questions that they have is more than I've ever seen. They are very good partners with us since we've been with them for 2 years. If there's something that I need that would better align with MAP, then all I do is call them up and say, hey, can you develop this type of test question? And I've done that before, and they've given me a turnaround of 2 weeks. So very good partners. We have discussions at least once a month, or if not more. But at this time, it's going into the year 3. Although another thing I was going to say is that teachers have the ability to build their own formatives. And that's what you kind of see here on this thing right here. So you can see that they're doing their own in addition to the district CFAs, because the grading is done for them. So the many times that they would be sitting at home doing the grading, and they're not having to do that. And again, they can look at real time and give real time feedback to students. So we see a lot of schools that are doing this. If I was a teacher and I had a grade assessment that I developed 2 years ago, I can upload it and it automatically turn it into a digital format. I can go and type something in Google and it'll automatically put an image on my test question. So it's very user friendly. And again, we've been using it for the last 2 years. So it's being recommended that we renew Formative for the 23-24 school year. Are there any questions?
Yeah, do we know if it's working?
In the mind.
It is working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say I wish I could show you, but I can't because it's got student names.
The program sounds absolutely wonderful. I guess the only thing that causes me a little dismay is that it doesn't appear to be consistently used throughout the districts, throughout the schools. There are some looking at this who barely use it at all. And is there a way to encourage teachers to use these platforms? We pay so much money for them. And it's like we have it and we're not taking advantage of it.
But if I can interrupt for you, keep in mind, this is just a snapshot of the last 14 days.
So can you explain what the number 69?
Yeah, so if, and I can't see that far, but it's to say that it's under Danforth, then I would hit that.
The big 69.
Oh, that's all of them combined.
That means 69%
of all the assessments that have been taken within the last 14 days, we've had 69% of our scholars that show that they are at or above grade level.
So it appears, and then the number right after the school, like the high school, 73. That means 73% of the students are at or above.
On that particular assessment. So if you would have been able to hit the drop down button, you would see probably about 10 high school teachers listed there. And out of the 10, let's just say the biology department gave them, and so they had 4 teachers. That number would represent an average of those 4 biology teachers because they all gave the same assessment. But then to dive down deeper, we'll click on the teacher's name and then we'll see the students and we can get dive deeper and see who's scoring what, or even so for some of the analysis, if all of my students missed question number 4, then something was wrong with the question. So I can go back and take a look at it. Maybe it's something that I forgot to teach, or maybe it's just the way that the question was worded.
It's not working in this form, but.
No, yeah, it won't.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just can't show it because it's got real student data in there and it's a public meeting.
Understanding that this is data from the last 14 days, I still would wonder if I had 14 more days previous, prior to this, would it look about the same? So.
Well, it would not look about the same. It varies. And that usually, when I show you the paper data, it's kind of the same explanation. It depends on the time of the year and just different things. And I can get into that when I show you the paper thing. But this is also too, just this little line, like it shows, like I can't even read, there's like what, 15 CFAs on this slide. It slides all the way over and there's a lot of them.
So these CFAs through this format, is it graded by the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that's another reason, more of a reason to use it, because there you have immediate feedback.
Exactly right.
You see right away where your students are and what they need, and maybe I don't need to cover this and I do need to spend more time on this. So I still would like to see them being utilized more because it gives that feedback and it lets us know where we are.
Well, whenever I talk to teachers or in data team meetings, I tell them that you're crazy. If you're doing your own grading, you're crazy. Because it was in one data team meeting and a teacher had a stack of a test. And I said, how long do you spend working on that over the weekend? She said about 2.5 hours. I said, you want me to show you where you can save yourself 2.5 hours of your time? And again, it's immediate feedback. You don't have to wait for 2.5 hours because sometimes maybe I get distracted when I'm at home and I'm not going to get them all done back to those kids. So now I can do that. But the key with that is that you still want to be able to analyze the test as those kids are taking it. So it's just not, I want the platform to grade it so I can put a number in a grade book. It's using the assessment as instructional practice.
Right. And then, like I say, right away, you can look and say, oh, wait a minute. 15 students missed question number 5. So are we having trouble with number 5? Is it the way number 5 is written? What do we need to do? Do I need to teach this skill in grading this test? Because if those questions mimic what the students will have on the MAP test, then we need to make sure that they're able to answer those 2-part questions, provide this support, or whatever it is the question is asking. And so all the more reason to.
Yeah, and I will tell you too, there's other benefits of it as well, is that it allows us to monitor the pacing of the curriculum because lots of times people will sometimes slow down the pacing because not all the kids are getting it instead of staying, and they don't ever have the opportunity to get all the way through the curriculum by the end of the school year. So this allows us to monitor. It allows us to make modifications to the curriculum. And again, it's based upon the whole backwards design is that, before you start teaching, you should be looking at the assessment to see how those kids are going to be assessed so that that's the way that you know how to teach them. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. I'll be back.
The next item is the summary of fund balance report for the month ending March 31st, 2023. Making this report is Dr. LaVon Singleton. This is in compliance with policy DIAA fund balances. Dr. Singleton.
Good evening, Special Administrative Board, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, colleagues and community. Tonight I will give the summary of fund balance report for the 9 months ending March 31st, 2023. On the very first page of the report is the summary of all of our fund balances through March 31st. And so for the benefit of our new board members, we have several funds that house our monies, if you will. We have a general fund for all of our operations. We have a teacher's fund that covers all of the teacher salaries and benefits. We have debt service to pay our outstanding bond obligations. We have capital projects to pay for renovations, improvements, things of that nature, food service, student activities. So you have a list of all the funds. And on that first page, you see the beginning of the year balances where we started as of July 1st. The second column is our year-to-date revenues. Those are the monies that we have received in this school year in each of those funds, okay? So roughly about $57 million we've seen come into the district, and we have obligated to those funds. Our expenditures are roughly $56 million, and again, it's all grouped and categorized by the corresponding fund, which gives us an ending fund balance of about $25 million. The second page of the fund balance report summarizes our grant expenditures, okay? Of course, our grants are those funds that we receive. A lot of them are federal. We're talking about our title grants. We're a low-income district, so Title I allows us certain allocations. Our CARES Act monies, those are our ESSER grants. When you see the terminology ESSER, we're talking about those it's the elementary and secondary education, some kind of educational relief. Okay, when I don't need to know it, I know it. But that's what the ESSER acronym essentially. Those are those pots of monies designed in response to COVID that a lot of the school districts received in order to stay operating. Okay, and our district did receive 3 pots of ESSER monies, roughly totaling about $50 million over the course of those 3 years, okay? But you can see these are just our grant expenditures on the second page, and these numbers do tie back to the very first page as well. Let's move on to the third page. We look at our grant revenues. You can't look at the expenses without looking at the corresponding revenues. And again, just focusing on the grants themselves, we're looking at roughly about $10 million coming in, and we've got about $29 million outstanding in collections. And so, of course, as we get closer to the end of the school year, we'll see those numbers start to increase in terms of our receipts. Also, on the next page, we look at our revenues by fund. And again, I just mentioned to you those 5 or 6 funds that we group by. So general fund, teachers fund, debt service, capital projects, food service. We look at those revenues that have actually come in and we place those monies in those corresponding funds. So you get an opportunity. That third column over says FYTD, fiscal year to date. Actual, it tells you the monies that we have received so far and where those funds come from. A lot of them are local in the general fund. Those are the tax levy funds that come in that are assigned local. State, of course. State is our state aid monies that come into the general fund. The majority of our state monies goes into the teachers fund. And so, again, we can see how those dollars are allocated in that third column. So that is the revenues. Next page, again, page 5 looks at the expenditures. And again, this is all for a 9-month period of time. We've still got 3 months to go. But if you look at the expenditure column under general fund, that third column over again, that fiscal year to date actual, we've spent about $26 million in general fund expenditures. Again, most of those are salaries, benefits, and a lot of them are purchase services. In the teachers fund, salaries and benefits, about $20 million as well. Debt services, capital projects, all of those numbers are assigned and they are reflected in those appropriate columns. The last 2 pages of the report give the revenues and expenditures from year to year, okay? Where were we this time in 2021? Where were we the first 9 months of 2022? And where were we the first 9 months of 2023? So if you read those columns starting from the far right going forward, you can see that in our general fund from 21 to 22, we saw a pretty substantial increase. And then from 22 to 23, we see another substantial increase. And a lot of that is attributed to a couple things. One are the ESSER funds, the grant funds that we've received, and also the increase in the tax levy that our district did. And so we're seeing additional monies under local in that top category as well. So again, Teachers Fund, you see where we are from year to year, starting from 21-22 into 23. Debt services as well, capital projects, food service. A lot of these numbers are pretty similar from year to year. The last page is the expenditures. Again, the same way we follow the expenses, we follow the revenues. And so we'll see that in 2021, we spent about $18 million in the general fund. In 22, we spent $21 million. In 23, right now, we're at about $26 million. And again, a lot of this is having to deal with spending those ESSER dollars that are coming in and doing the appropriate projects that we told DESE that we would do. Okay. This concludes. It's a quick summary. Certainly we'll have an opportunity to sit down in a retreat and get much more detailed about the report. But if there are any questions that you all may have, I'll try to answer those at this time.
I have a question.
Yes.
General question.
Sure.
When we read the MSBA sends a legislative update, and we read that, and I read how much money the state has allocated or proposed for, like, for instance, increase in teacher salary.
Sure.
And stuff like that. How does that relate to the money that our district get? Do we get those funds just based on the allocation, or do we have to ask for some of that stuff?
Sure. So average daily attendance really drives everything that we get in the school district. Okay. So there's a formula, there's a foundation formula that these scholars have come up with, this magical formula, and somehow or another, this formula trickles down. And generally we are one of the more favorable schools from the formula. Now there's some unfavorable parts of the formula, but we generally get it. More than half of our monies come from the state aid. Okay. And so $30 to $35 million. But to answer your question, I think you were going somewhere about the additional monies that the legislature are putting in to increase teacher salaries. That is going to really have an impact in your rural districts, okay? And that's because those rural districts, so right now the state is leading a charge to make the minimum teacher salaries roughly about $38,000, okay? Believe it or not, you've got some teachers, beginning teachers in rural districts that are only making $25,000 a year, okay? We've got, a lot of our personnel make substantially more than that. So $25,000 is what a lot of those rural districts are facing. And obviously, those teachers are going to other more urban areas where they can make substantially more monies. And so while we won't see an impact from those dollars, we won't see an influx of revenues that are geared towards increasing it. Because our minimum teacher salary right now is about $44,000 in this school district. So we're well above that targeted minimum that the state is trying to get other school districts to. And again, where we benefit from all of this is those ESSER monies. I went to a conference this past week. We learned that they are going to fully fund we're hoping, okay, nothing is final yet, but they're supposed to fully fund the transportation monies again this year. We're hoping that we won't lose money from the foundation formula. So all indication is that you should really get what you got last year, maybe a tad bit more. But that essentially is how we kind of fit into the scheme of things. Dr. Pruitt-Adams?
And Dr. Singleton talked about ADA, and that's the attendance. And that's what our money is built upon. He's correct. We get the vast majority of our money from the state because we're 100% free and reduced lunch. And that means we're technically a poor district. We have low economics. But if our students don't come to school,
sure,
we don't get money. That's the same thing when we talked about charter schools and our students going other places. and charter schools were promoted as free education when it's not, because the monies that we get for those students would follow those students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Dr. May, she's saying, Dr. May.
All right. My question is concerning the budget process. Are we waiting for the CSIP to be completed for you to begin the budget development? Have the principals started talking about, their budget needs? I was just wondering where we were in the process since we're just coming on.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. May. No, we have started the budget development process. In fact, a lot of this started towards the end of last year, December, January. We had a budget retreat January 31st in the school district where we met with all of the principals and all the budget managers. We gave them until spring break, March the 17th, to get their budget requests into the system. Overwhelmingly, the majority of those budget requests are in the system at this point. And so right now, we know that the majority, 85% of any school district's budget is salary and benefits. So the holdup right now with our budget is the salary and benefit pieces that are going to go into next year. And so hopefully we'll be able to make some significant advances because we have the salary pieces on the agenda tonight that I'll also be presenting later on in the agenda. So yes, we have started the process. Principals have given us their feedback and input. We've had a retreat. We've had numerous times where people have, asked or requested revisions. And so we are intimately involved in the process right now, and hopeful to be able to present our budget to the board by that first meeting in June and have it adopted per state statute by June 30th.
Just as a point of reference, Dr. Singleton, for our new board members, would you speak to that we're going to zero-based budgeting?
Sure.
And centralized purchase?
Sure. A couple of things that we are stressing in the upcoming budget that we may not have stressed in previous budgets are two things: zero-based budgeting. Okay. Many times people have been given budgets in the past, and they may not have spent all of those monies for various reasons. If I give you $20,000, you think that's your budget. Okay. And you'll try to spend $20,000 every year. But what zero-based budgeting does, it actually makes you start from zero. Okay. And you have to justify all of the asks that you're going to need for your budget allocation this year. We think that's going to save the district some money, okay? Rather than just arbitrarily assigning a budget number, we asked our budget managers and principals this year to give us a list of your obligations for next year. What are you going to need in this line item for purchase services, okay? What are you going to need in this line item for travel? Which conferences are you going to attend? What material and supplies are you going to use? And so zero-based budgeting essentially makes you start from zero and justify and build your budgets based on the anticipated needs for next year. Also, we're going to go to centralized purchasing, okay? That should save the district some money as well, all right? And what centralized purchasing essentially is all of our big purchases, and we spend a lot of money on technology in this district. You will hear Dr. Larry and her team come before us a lot of times and tell you we need to make sure that we've got technology in the hands of our students. So centralized purchasing allows us to get a cheaper purchase, okay? Because we buy it in bulk. We buy it from, we've got partnerships, we've got memberships with various entities that will, of course, because we buy it in bulk and buy it in large volume, that will give us a greater bang for our buck than one school going to this vendor to buy this item or the other school going here. Centralized purchasing says that we're going to buy it in bulk and we're going to buy it from one vendor, and then we're going to see some significant savings. So those are two concepts that we are basing our next year's budget on, and I think we're going to show some savings, if you will, over any previous budgets that we've had in the past. Thank you, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. Okay. Are there any other questions about the fund balance report? All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next presentation is Dr. Phil Kennedy, and this is the Renaissance Store 360 and Freckle Renewal.
Is it? I thought it was paper.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Wrong
Okay.
item. Disregard. Renewal of the paper online tutoring.
All righty. Hello again, everyone. This year was the first year that we used paper tutoring service, and it is a 24-hour, 7 days a week service where our students can log on and they will be text messaging with a live person. And it's available in over 200 different subject areas. And one of the questions that kept coming up, and again, as Dr. Coleman stated earlier, with Formative is that why purchase it if we're not going to be using it? And so Formative is a good partnership, a great partnership. We're always in contact with each other. We actually do a monthly meeting where we review all of the data for that particular month. So the slideshow that you have here, the PowerPoint that you have here, is whenever we sat down this month and we went ahead and looked at what is the data and usage for this entire year. So I'm going to just highlight a couple of things. With the tutoring service with paper, students can get help in two different ways. They can log on and communicate with a live person. And that's where you see the live help sessions, which is 3,151 students have logged on. Our sessions have been utilized. And then there's also the review center submission, which if I have been giving a writing assignment, I can upload my paper into paper and they will review it. And then they can give me suggestions. And I go back and I see a lot more of our high school kids that are utilizing this. And so far this year, we've had a total of 4,000 total activities, which the way that they break that down is that's like, I think it was 0.86 of our scholars. So the goal is to get to 1. So at least every scholar has logged on one time, and you can see how many hours they're spending on the writing reviews and how many hours in the live sessions. And there's also the average live session length is 23 minutes, and I've seen them as longer than that. And then the average writing review is 28 minutes. One of the first things that I do every morning is I come in and I log on and I read the students, not all of them, but I read a lot of the activities and their interactions between the tutors. And they're not only using it to get help, they're also using it to verify the problems that they're working on. Are they correct? And so it's also kind of building confidence and just listening or reading that dialogue between the tutors is very interesting. It's telling me a lot about our scholars. And here are a couple of comments. This is an elementary session, 5th grade at Meadows. Again, you can read that. I know we've been here a while, so you can take a look at the interaction. The interaction between the scholars and the tutor. The tutor coaches them through score. It's a coaching through Socratic method, if I can get that out, to where some of our scholars logged on at the very beginning and they got upset because the tutor didn't just give them the answer. And so they logged back off and then they had to figure it out. Wait a second, this person has walking me through it. So that right there is Meadows example. Here's a middle school. And you can see that they time-stamped them. Again, I'm not going to read those to you, but it's all positive feedback. And then also too, this is a high school one. As you can see, this particular student, I can see their names. They just put the ID session numbers on there. So if I want to go back and actually verify that what is the conversation that was had, I can go back there and type in the session number and read the whole conversation. As you can see, this student needed help on their writing piece, and they took about the first 20 minutes. They made some changes in their writing, then they came back and then they got some more suggestions, and then they went back and did some more corrections at 72 minutes. Student feedback, again, that's something that you can read on your own. And this is usage by site. So our high school has the most usage, but surprisingly enough, Gibson Elementary, you wouldn't think that, but the way that it's designed and the PD that's been rolled out with it, we did PD at the beginning of the year. We did it during late start Wednesdays. We did it just randomly, like in October. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but I have 2 4th grade teachers over there that incorporate paper into their lesson planning every day. So whenever they go into small group stations, one of them, that there's a task to be completed and students do not know how to do it or what to do it, they get on paper and they do it. Same thing with Westview, 6th grade math incorporates that as well. The PD that had been given or been exposed to explains how they can incorporate it into their lessons, but you can just take a look at some of the other things, the other schools that are utilizing it. During the month of January late start, Mrs. Clark had me come down and I talked to it about Central. We saw that usage jump up after that because it wasn't being used very much at the beginning of the school year. And this is where you can see the monthly usage. Obviously, at the beginning of the school year, it was new. Then it started increasing, and we peaked in October, and that's when one of the representatives came down, or I actually think she was from Texas, and I took her around the district for 2 days. We talked to kids. We talked to 2 teachers. Tina has had Parent University. They've worked with her so that she can train the teachers or the parents, and they've used it. And I'll show you that in a second, where we've actually had 7 kindergarten students log on, and you're thinking students? No, it's their parents that are logging on and assisting them with it. But you can see in December, we had, that's our holiday, so we're not here as much. January, we saw the spike go back up. In February and March, it kind of leveled off. I even came in the first working day for staff to return up was January the 2nd. There were kids that logged on New Year's Day to do the work. And I was amazed at that, pleasantly surprised. Again, it's broken down to live data help. What are they getting, the areas that they're getting the usage in? I better start looking at this because that's getting awful small. So most of it is in math, and that's a good thing because when you're looking at our scores, that's our lowest achieving area. So a lot of the kids are using it in math, but also English. And I know at the high school, a lot of the science department is using it as well. And then that is by grade level, kind of the same slide. And then this is another key point, as you can see, we've had 1,038 kids that just logged on once. The goal is for them to become familiar with it and log on multiple times. And so you can see the students that are logging on twice, 3 times, and 4 times. And I'm seeing that a lot from some of our older students and those students whose teachers incorporate it into their daily lesson planning. Now, that's pretty much on the data part, but it's available. They've made some changes to make it easier for kids to utilize, particularly our younger kids. So there's apps. They can take a picture of it with their phone and upload it that way. And there's multiple ways that they can upload their math problems. They do now have voice to chat to text, which would be a lot better for our younger kids. And there's your voice typing. If I need it read from me, if the tutor types me something and I need it read, I can push the button and they'll read it to me so that I can understand it. They just launched a new component called paper reading, which really works on student fluency. So students can go in there and practice. They also have some other math practice sessions, which students have been utilizing as well. And let's see. And that's pretty much all I'm going to show you. There's some other things in there with their mission and things like that. But one of the things that we talk about every month when we meet, Dr. Nichols is with me, Tina's with me sometimes, and the paper team, is that we look at the data for each month, and then we look at in which we discuss what are our goals for next month. How can we get that usage up? How can we expose our kids to it? So to me, it's a good resource. I'm not sure where the numbers that we really want them at this point in time of being new, but if approved, I really feel like we're going to see those numbers jump next year. So it's my recommendation that we approve it. It's being paid through ESSER 3 funds. It's not out of our general budget. It's out of ESSER 3 funds. And I think it's just benefiting our kids just by reading the dialogue between the tutors and that paper. I know we have our college career teacher at the high school that's utilizing it for resumes and applications and things like that as well. So Are there any questions?
Well, I have questions, comments. I had hoped that the high school students would have taken more advantages of the opportunity to get help with the ELA. When I speak with my colleagues at the college level, they often complain that we are not, and not just us, but districts across the state are not preparing our students to write at the collegiate level. I noticed there's a high level of usage in October. Is this student midterms, or was this because it was in class use?
It's because, like I said, the one of the representatives of the paper team came down, and she and I went around to all of our schools for 2 days. And we were getting that one-on-one attention so that we can, sometimes we spoke to classes, sometimes we spoke to teachers on their prep period. But the main thing is just getting the message out. And, we have flyers that are on the counter, or the counters in the buildings. One of the things that we talked about last time in our meeting is that they said, well, we have some banners. If you want us to give you some banners, how many do you want? And that way we can start putting them in some of the schools, particularly the schools that are using them, and some that aren't. And then that way we can kind of get that around. Because when I went to Central, the first thing I asked that staff there, I said, who wants a teacher's assistant for their classroom? And about 5 or 6 teachers raised their hand. And I said, this is it. And, especially in the elementary where the teacher's working in a small group with 3 or 4 kids, and they're getting bombarded with questions. And the old rule of thumb used to be ask 3 of your colleagues before you ask me, ask 3 before me. To me now with paper, it's like log on to paper and work with the tutor. While I'm working with my kids right here, you'll get your chance to come work with me. But in the meantime, there should be no room for any distraction or disruption, because you should have those kids that are going all the time. And if they don't know how to do it, then you just get on paper.
Okay.
And one other thing, I'm sorry. The whole purpose that why we were looking at this is to get our ELL kids some extra help. And we're starting to see some gains in the ELL kids that are using it too.
I noticed that there was a significant drop in the use between December and March, and also that there was 49% of the use was math. Now, is this because of a push from math instructors? Is that it, that the math teachers are encouraging?
So actually, Miss Mott did no, it was Freckle. We did a Freckle challenge. So, but that could be aligned to it, because if I'm doing a Freckle challenge in Renaissance Star and I don't know how to do the question, I could go get online with the tutor.
Okay. We have a dire need to increase usage for support in the English if we want to improve our student writing and reading skills, and we want to improve our ELA test scores. Can we, or is there a way to encourage the teachers to encourage the students, and like you say, small group instruction, or to have a group of students working with a tutor while the teacher, especially if you have a school where you have a high number of uncertified staff, to get that usage in the classroom. And maybe if they're using it more in the classroom, they'll be more prone to go home.
That's the idea.
And use it again. And especially, and even with our high school students, to get them to look over that writing and to work on skills and things
right.
like that.
Yeah, and one of the other things that I look at, and it's not in here, but majority of our usage comes within the school hour days. And so, because I look at too, I'm curious as to who's doing it on a Saturday, who's doing it, at 10 o'clock at night, and I do see that. So, are there any other questions?
I noticed that the high school students don't seem to use the tutoring program that much. Is it accurate?
It just depends. But I think now that since they have the app that they can download on their phone, I think we're going to start to see it increase because they use their phones a lot.
And maybe as part of credit recovery, look, you need some help in this to help complete those modules, even at the ACE Center. Yeah.
I think it's a matter too of, and we've tried it. I mean, like we've provided a lot of PD, a lot of communication. But it's just a matter, the way I like it is as a teacher, and I always try to think of it from a teacher perspective, it's making my life a little bit easier where I can focus on some of the other things that I need to focus on in the classroom. So again, the C&I team has communicated it. We've done a lot of PD on late start Wednesdays. I mean, it's really up to the buildings.
I have a question. I remember last year, I was just getting started. And I remember seeing this cost of $270,000.
Yeah.
I thought was exorbitant. But I also remember I thought it was based on how many years we committed to the program.
So last year, when I first presented, we did a breakdown of a 3-year because it was cost savings, and then we scaled back to just 1 year. I will tell you that the cost did not increase this year from last year.
Okay.
Usually it does.
I believe we moved back to the 1 year because we wanted to see if students were going to use it.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, the next item now is the Renaissance 360 and Freckle renewal.
Yes. So again, Riverview Gardens has been using Renaissance 360, which is the benchmark assessment, and then Freckle this is the conclusion of the 3rd year. So again, we're asking for renewal for the next year, school year. It's something that, as you heard the ladies talking about in their data, we benchmark in the fall, the winter, and then the spring. And that data is used for a lot of stuff. Dr. JPA uses it with her state of the district and with DESE requesting data. The buildings use it all the time in their work in conjunction with Solution Tree. And then again, once the student has been assessed, and that the tests are about 25 to 30 minutes long. They're not very long, but it is all aligned to our Missouri learning standards. And more importantly, I think you heard Dr. Winfield mention Freckle. Once they've taken the test and they take it in just reading and math, in kindergarten does early literacy. But what happens is that it identifies those areas where they are strong and where they need some more improvement. And so the teacher can go into Freckle, which is an interventionist enrichment tool, and assign basically practice for them to work on. And that's it seems to go over really well with our elementary and somewhat of our secondary kids, not the high school. We're getting them to use it more and more. But it just takes it out. If I have a struggling student, and the program will identify the areas where the students are struggling. And I think you also heard Dr. Winfield say our schools group our kids. So then they can, measure their progress as a whole together. But the whole guideline is to see that our students are making progress. And in my 3 years that I've been here, I'm seeing the same thing that you're seeing from what they presented earlier. I think that our spring scores are the ones that I've already looked at that have completed because we have some schools that are waiting. They have till the end of May to complete it. But I'm seeing increase from the fall baseline. I see an increase in some areas in the winter, but I'm really seeing an increase in the spring scores. And again, when I look at the MAP data, which is based on our accreditation is based upon, and I compare it to the spring MAP or spring STAR, it's a pretty reliable predictor, about 95%. So I tell our principals is that if you want to see how your kids are going to score on MAP, take a look at your spring STAR, because it's pretty doggone close. And Tammy, can you click on that? There should be, yeah. So this is just, once everyone's done taking it, I'll do a comparison. And so I'm looking at right now I only have completed the fall and the winter because we still have schools that are taking it, and I'll put in the spring and that, and we can look and try to identify trends. Because then we can take that and go back to our curriculum and make necessary adjustments as well. So again, I am asking for the approval of the STAR 360 and Freckle renewal for the 23-24 school year.
Dr. Kennedy, you may want to add that as DESE moves into its literacy initiative, they just sent out the list of assessments that are on their list, and Renaissance Star is one of them.
Yeah, and there's only 4 approved, and Renaissance Star was one of them. So, any other questions?
This
All right.
question, I have a question for Dr. Pruitt-Adams or Dr. Singleton. When I look at the policy, it's not completely clear on renewals as far as the RFP process, but it does say, you know, a more formal process is needed for anything over 50,000. So do you know for sure if each year that we're renewing, when it's over 50,000, if we have to do the RFP, or if, you know, for renewals, we wouldn't have to go through that process? When I read it, it's just not clear, but I just want to make sure, because a lot of the board documents that come in when it's over 50,000 is not referencing a policy, and then I'm not sure if it's applicable to renewals, because if so, you know, we want to make sure we're in compliance with that.
All right, so Dr. Avani Elliott, I'm going to answer part of that. So I know this is a continuation, but I think this vendor is on the state approved list, which, if that's the case, you know, you don't have to do the standard RFP process. This vendor qualifies. It's on DESE's list of approved vendors, and so with that being said, we're not required to do the RFP process for those that are on DESE's list.
Also, that also implies a lot of times when we go out for other RFPs for construction and things like that, if they are on the approved DESE list and or through Ed Plus, which we have a partnership, then that leaves us void. A lot of times when it comes to this, and I'll have to, that when it's new is when you do the RFP, and then some policies, and I don't have the policy in front of me, says that after so many years, you have to go back out for an RFP.
Okay, because our policy does not reference the adoption of products because they've been vetted or whatever through the state. It just indicates that a formal process is required for over $50,000. So I just want to be clear of that. So as we're making decisions, we'll be in compliance with the process.
So what we can do is we can send you a formal explanation to you and to the board with regards to what our RFP procedures are, because there's also a policy for that.
Okay.
You ready for the next item? Is that why you're up there?
Oh, yes.
I just didn't know if Dr. May was done with her questions, and so I didn't know if you went up to add to that response or for the next presentation. Okay. The next presentation is, yes.
I did want to say one thing though. This was not pass over question.
Typically, in policy DJF, it states that the board directs administration to notify them within 30 days prior to the expiration of a contract. So in that case, prior to the contract expiring, if it's brought back for a renewal, then you don't have to go out for the RFP.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item G is the 22-23 staffing plan adjustment. And making this presentation in the absence of, and it's about adding an additional assistant principal at Westview Middle School. And this item is in compliance with board policy AF.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. Good evening, Special Administrative Board. We are, this agenda item is asking for a revision to the staffing plan to include one additional assistant principal for Westview Middle School. As you all know, next year we will have a brand new, all new administrators for the school, okay? And so we've had some culture and climate challenges at Westview this year, and to have a more conducive learning environment, we are asking the board to fund an additional position of assistant principal, adding this to the staffing plan for Westview Middle School for next year. Are there any questions?
I've been asking for a third principal at Westview since 2007, so.
Oh, wow.
Thought I'd just tell you.
I do have a question. What's the current enrollment?
The current enrollment at Westview is somewhere around, I think, between 550 and 600.
Okay, I think it said 520 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay. I'm looking at the staffing plan. Okay, so had you considered a dean, or why was the choice?
Yes, we've talked about the terminology dean. We've talked about assistant principal. And so right now, because of the state of Westview, we could go either way with that, but we led with the assistant principal for various reasons. Deans can't evaluate, where an assistant principal can do an evaluation on a teacher.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Deans cannot suspend as well because they don't necessarily have to have an administrative certification.
Great. Next item.
I just want, are there any other questions?
Are there any other questions? I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. The next item, yay, is the 2022-2024 RGNEA Collective Bargaining Tentative Agreement 3.1 Salary Raises. Dr. Singleton.
All right. So, Special Administrative Board, we are very proud to say that we have reached a tentative agreement with our teachers union. And so not only did we reach a tentative agreement for 1 year, but we all negotiated in good faith to come up with a second-year agreement. And so what we are proposing to the board is that there be a 2-year agreement using the teacher salary scale from the compensation study. And a lot of this is already included in your board item in your package. So this is going to come from the compensations proposal. We know that there were some challenges with our current teacher salary schedule. And so the compensation proposal came with a new salary schedule. And then we're also additionally asking or going to, or bargained, if you will, one additional step for those steps 1 through 20 for next fiscal year as well. So what we're saying is they're going from our old scale to the new scale. So if you were on step 5 on the old, you'll go to step 5 on the new, and then get an additional step, go down to step 6. Okay. Going from 5 to 5 on the old to new was an increase as well. Okay. Because the new compensation schedule did come with an increase. And then we're also asking for an additional step. That's for next year. And for administrators that are beyond the scale, if you will, off the schedule, you often, I'm sorry, teachers that are off the schedule, off the scale, if you will, we are asking for a 5.45% increase for them for next year as well. For the second year, 24-25 school year, we are asking that teachers just get a step, and also the teachers that are off the scale get the 2.8% salary increase. So that is the recommendation. Are there any questions at this time?
I just want to add some clarity for our new board members, because they weren't probably not aware of the compensation study. And the compensation study was in an effort to bring our staff salaries more competitive, closer to being competitive. They're not quite there, but more competitive. And also, when the district lost its accreditation, everyone had to reapply. They lost their tenure. And so it was our hope of trying to bring them not whole, but as close as we possibly could to having somewhere near a semblance of others. The 5.47 basically kind of equates to the overall average.
5.45.
Thank you, 5.45 to the overall average. And then the 2.80 for the next year will equate to what that step increase.
Yes.
But that's for the people who are off the schedule, and we're going from a 30-step schedule
To 20.
to a 20. And then we also want to bring in the range right now for bringing people in. We want to be able to bring people on if they have the
Step 10.
experience at up to a step 10.
Any questions?
Quick question. I was just wondering, are you all individually addressing those staff members whose salaries may be off from various, pay scale issues in the past to adjust them correctly? Because
if I might, this in some way tries to do that. One of the things we realized in the compensation study, and due to previous poor record keeping, we don't know we have no proof of where people were unless they have the documentation. And so there was no way we could make everyone whole. The other part to that, we also have to give our support staff and our administrators a pay increase as well, and want to make sure that we can maintain a fund balance. And because we also explained to our union, we don't want to come back 2 years from now and say, oh, now we got to freeze your salaries. And so this was the median for that. We did, when we knew where people were, take that into consideration. And the board did earlier give me some latitude to negotiate outside of the pay scale.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would add, Dr. Yvonne Elliott, is that during those discussions, we also just kind of came back to the historical piece of the raises that over the past several years. I mean, this board has been very generous in where we have allowed raises. And so we calculated somewhere in excess of 20% over the last 3 fiscal years going into next year. So, we understand that, in the past, there may have been some challenges, but, I think that the board has made more than a valiant effort to bring our staff up to what some would consider reasonably competitive in this day and age. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Well, I would recommend if the data is available, because I know that, that's normally a real serious concern for some people. If any salaries had to be reported in core data to the state, that those records be pulled as a way to remedy those gaps. Because if you don't have records, I'm thinking that it had to be provided to DESE for core data at some point, and maybe can be requested from them. Thank you.
So I feel the need to respond to that. And I'm trying to frame it. I hear you. That too is time intensive. And it is our hope that since the board has given me some latitude to do that outside of the pay schedule, that I be allowed to do that. And the reason being, contracts had to go out on April the 15th. And so we are actually behind. And when some people received their contract, they were like, what's my raise gonna be? And so our hope is to get new salaries out to people as soon as possible, because people are still hiring. And so that's something we can do on an individual basis as we look through things. But to try to take that on at this point in time would be time intensive and would put us behind the 8 ball. And then the other thing I would ask about is if that is the will of the board, then we will do that. But I would ask some consideration, because again, we don't want to come back, because we have quite a few people who have been here for the long haul. Those people who Dr. Singleton talked about being outside of the pay scale are some of those people, 20, 25 years. And so we took that into consideration of what we could do. As I said, we've gone down in the bowels of this building. I don't know what's in core data. I don't know how much has been saved or when DESE removes things over time. But as we move forward, that was our intent, to bring people as close as possible. If we made everybody in this district whole, and not that they don't deserve it, we would be coming back here in the next year or two saying we need to freeze salaries. And we don't want to do that. The other thing we shared as we went through this process, because I just want everyone to know that we bargained in good faith, benefits have gone up. We also have staff who, for the longest, have not made the monies to pay for benefits. And so we're also trying to see how can we now make sure that they have benefits. And as we look at where people are with that and giving everybody an increase, in the last 3 years, they've gotten a little over 20% of a pay increase just in the last 3 years. And as we look at being fiscally solvent, we also have to take that into consideration. And so I would ask the board to allow us to look at when that happens. If someone comes to us, we've got the documentation, we take all of that into consideration. But we also want to be fair, because if we don't know what someone has and they've been here a while and we say we can't because we have no proof through DESE or we have no proof through documentation, then that too puts us in a situation of not being equitable.
I agree with moving forward and taking it on an individual basis. That was what I was suggesting.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant for like right now.
No.
Okay.
Not for the approval of this process, just for it to be addressed. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Any other questions? Okay. Last item.
The next item is item I, and it's the 23-24 salary increases. Dr. Singleton.
Thank you, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. All right. So for 23-24 salary increases, the previous line item or the previous agenda item was purely teachers. Okay, that was strictly teachers. The compensation study that we had, we asked for the focus group to look at all of our salaries, all of our schedules, not only teachers, but look at the administrators. Okay, because we know that we've got many of our administrators who can, go in other districts and make more money. Clerical staff, custodians, food service. And so as you can see in your agenda item, all of the work groups were looked at. And we were, and the compensation study focused on what would it take to make those teachers more competitive as well. And you see the corresponding on the very end, the corresponding percent of payroll. Those are the recommended increases. At the very bottom, that is an overall average of 7.60%. That gives you some kind of indication as to what the total impact of raises are. And so we are recommending that the additional groups, the teachers' overall average is 8.33, administrative 6.00, clerical 7.06, custodial 9.56, food service 4.87, instructional 6.07, maintenance 3.20, MIS 10.54, nursing 12.01, security 9.36, and others of 5.44. I think there were some
outliers.
Right. There were some outliers on the schedule as well. So the total overall average for the additional increases for next year are at 7.660%. Are there any questions at this time? Yes.
So this right here, like 8.33 for teachers and administrative, what have you. This is how much a percentage of a raise you get?
Right. But this is an overall average though. So when you look at when you start from the top and go all the way down to the bottom, no, wait, let me make sure I'm saying that right. Because the And help me out, Dr. JPA, because I'm sleepy right now too. So so the move from one scale to the next and the additional step averages out to the 8.33%. Yes, ma'am. So you're correct.
That's an average. That's not to say everyone on the teacher ranks is going to get an 8% pay increase.
And when we find one, the custodians, they're gonna get this
On an average.
on an average
Right.
9.56%.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And the total impact is $2,276,733.30. And those outliers are listed at the bottom: the homeschool coordinators, social workers,
Right.
social emotional interventionists, RTI interventionists, parent educators. When the compensation study was done, and what we can do when we have the new board member retreat under finance, when we get that day, we can go through the compensation study. So, and if you look into your board item, you have the work that was done, and it was based on fair market value. We also had everyone had an opportunity. Once everyone filled it out, to update their job description so that we knew exactly what they were doing. Then the supervisors had to sign off on each job description or roles and responsibilities that we turned over, and then a comparison was done between fair market value of those specific descriptions. And then the recommendation came back to us. That concludes our items for discussion.
Thank you. We're moving now, board members, to item number 11. And just like you heard earlier, them give us items for discussion. These items that we are voting on for the consent agenda were items that were discussed at the previous board member. So what I'm going to ask for at this time is a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we do a
Yeah.
roll call? I would like to abstain.
Okay.
Jackson? Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Harlan?
Yes.
Bidwell?
Yeah.
Dr. Flynn?
Yes.
Dr. Lady?
Abstention.
Okay. At this time, we'll move to item 13, which is items for action, and you'll see that we have two items for action. Item A is the 2022-2024 RGNEA collective bargaining tentative agreement, 3.1 salary and wages. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is item B, which is the 2023-2024 salary increases.
Excuse me,
Yes.
you need to go through that sheet.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So, so all in favor was yay. Are there anyone that opposed item A? I know that Dr. Miranda abstained.
Just on the consent item.
That's what I'm talking about now. I'm talking about item A, since I left off some of the information.
She didn't abstain on that one.
She did not abstain. I'm sorry. I thought she did.
We all speak.
I abstain on the consent agenda items.
Okay, I apologize, Miranda. Thank you. Okay. So on items 2022-2024 RGNEA collective bargaining tentative agreement, all in favor, and I'm just doing this because since I didn't do it right correctly. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Are there any that oppose? Say nay. Are there any abstentions? So the
Excuse
motion.
me, I'm sorry. When there is a vote for the all, everybody needs to say something, or else Ms. Fields can't even mark it as unanimous.
Okay.
So it is important that everyone say aye, nay, or abstain.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that out.
Okay.
Can we, Madam President, can we roll call
Yes.
for the last two?
Sure, that's fine. So on collective bargaining, she like a roll call vote. Okay, let's do a roll call.
Yes.
Collective bargaining, 13.
Mrs. Disworth?
Yeah.
Mr. Hartwick?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Dr. Culver?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Dr. May?
Yes.
Thank you. For item B, which is 2022-2024 salary increases. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying yay.
Yay.
She has
Oh, she asked for, I apologize, Miranda. Let's do the roll call. Let's do the roll call.
Dr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes.
Dr. Culver?
Yes.
Ms. Real?
Yes.
Mr. Hartwick?
Yes.
Ms. Disworth?
Yes.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
So the motion passes. We will now move to item 14, which is adjournment. May I have a motion? And thank you all for your patience this evening, everyone that stuck around. Thank you. We'll get there. So may I have a motion for adjournment?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Okay. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Or any opposers?
All right.
Any abstentions?
Call the question.
Okay, we are adjourned.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you.